Hi everybody, it's Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this waffle stitch slouchy hat and a scarf to match. It's not hard, but you do need to know how to do front post double crochet and back post double crochet. So I particularly am not a fan of slouchy hats, nor hats with pom-poms on them. I do not think that I look good in them, and I don't even really know how to wear them. But I thought I would try it on for you so you could see what it looks like there. And so that way you can determine if you want to make yours longer or shorter than what I did in the picture. But this is what it looks like. I don't know, palm might be kind of big on it. Whatever you guys think. I think I look like a nerd. But we will, the yarn's gorgeous though. It's my color yarn. I love that. But you guys want to do it? You want to go ahead and get started? It's not hard. You can do it. I know you can do it. Let's go. Okay, so first the hat here, I'll show you. This should fit about a size between 21.5 and 22 inch size head. I will give you the multiple of the hat. It's worked from the bottom up, and then we gather it and put a palm on it, and then we put a little brim on it at the end. I'll give you the multiple in case you want to make it larger than that. And the scarf, I'll give you the multiple of that. Now the hat and the scarf have different multiples, but it's still it's very easy to do if you can do front post and back post stitches. So let me give you a quick measurement of what we got going on here. So the hat, I'll start at the gathering point. All the way down is about 9 inches. If you want yours shorter than mine, you can always make it shorter. I'll tell you in the video where you can do that. And then the scarf, width-wise, it's about 5 inches. Like I said, 5 1/4. I'll give you the measurement to make it wider if you choose. And it's approximately 72 inches long, but you can make it any length that you want. Now for this project, I used Lion Brand's Basic Stitch Anti-Pilling. It's a 100% acrylic yarn. It's a medium 4-weight. Now you don't have to use this yarn. Any medium 4-weight will work just fine. There are 185 yards per ball. Now it took me almost all of one ball to make the hat, and 2.5 probably to make the scarf. But you don't have to make the scarf that long, or if you want to make it longer, that's completely up to you. But that was 185 yards per ball. And then I'm going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. Now remember, this hat will work well for a man or a woman. This is a unisex set, so man, woman, whoever. It's going to look great on whoever. Okay, for the hat, we're going to start out with a chain of 60. Now if you want, and we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch to form a ring, so we'll be working from the bottom of the hat up. Now if you want your hat bigger, you just need to be in multiples of 3 to make it larger. But following along with me for the size that I made, go ahead and chain 60. And now what we're going to do is follow this down without twisting our hook. And we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch to form our large ring. Okay, now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet. Now that chain 1 we just made does not count as a stitch. And now I'm going to work across my chain, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch, until I get all the way back around to the beginning. Just like that. So I'll meet back up with you at the beginning. Okay, so I've made it to the end of row 1, and you should have 60 stitches. And what we're going to do is go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first single crochet, not the chain one, but the first single crochet. Slip stitch 60 stitches, and that'll end round 1. So now we're going to start round 2. We are going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch. We're going to put a double crochet right back into that very stitch right there that we just slip stitched into. And now we're going to work around, and we're going to put 1 double crochet into every single stitch until we get back to our starting point. So just like this. 1 double in every stitch until you make it back to the beginning. Okay, I've come to the end of round 2, and I still should have my 60 stitches, and I'm going to go ahead and end round 2 by slip stitching into my first double crochet, not the chain 1. Now you'll have your 60 stitches. Now rounds 3 and 4 are going to be the repeat rounds of the hat. So we're going to go ahead and start round 3 by chaining 1. Chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to go right back into that same spot, and we're going to work a double crochet. And then we're going to work a double crochet into the next stitch. And then the next stitch we are going to work a front post double crochet. So we're going to go around the stitch and do a front post double. Like that. So what we just did there is we did 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and then a front post double crochet. And that's what we're going to repeat all the way around for round 3. So again, we're going to put a double crochet into the next stitch, a double into the next, and then a front post double into the next. Just like that. Again, a double crochet into the next, and then a double crochet into the next, and then a front post double into the next. And I am going to repeat this pattern of 2 double crochets and then a front post double crochet all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Alright, so I'm coming to the end of round 3, and your last stitch should have been a front post double crochet, and we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first double crochet. And you should have 60 stitches. We're always going to have 60 stitches now from here on out. So now we're going to do round 4. I know the pattern isn't very visible now, but the more rows you do, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. We're going to start round 4, and it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to chain 1. Doesn't count as a stitch. We need to do a back post. We're doing back post now on this round. Double crochet around this first stitch. Now remember, we did a chain 1 here. There's 2 ways you can do it. You can yarn over and do your back post and go through that chain 1 and the stitch, or what I usually do is I yarn over and I go in between that chain 1 and the stitch like that, and then do my back post double crochet like that. And then we need to do a back post double crochet around the next stitch. Remember, we're working back post, not front post. And then we're just going to do a double crochet, so regular double crochet in the top of the next stitch, which is actually a post stitch from the previous row. So we just do a regular double crochet into the top of that. So what we have now is 2 back post double crochets and then 1 regular double crochet, and that's what we're going to repeat for round 4. So we're going to do a back post double crochet around the next stitch, back post double crochet around the next stitch, and then a regular double crochet into the top of the next, and you'll be able to tell because it's a post stitch from the previous row. We just go right in it and do a regular double crochet. So again, we're going to repeat that again. Back post double into the next, back post double into the next, and then a regular double into the top of the next. And I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Alright, I've made it to the end of round 4, and you should have ended with the regular double crochet here into this post stitch from the previous round. And we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first back post double crochet, and you'll have 60 stitches again. And that's it. Now we're going to repeat rounds 3 and 4. So for round 5, we're just going to repeat what we did here on round 3. So if you remember right, we chained 1 and we put a double crochet into the first stitch and into the next stitch, just regular doubles. So there's 1, 2, and then we did a front post double crochet around the next stitch. Like that. And then we do double crochet, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2, and then the next stitch we did a front post double crochet. And I'm just going to keep repeating rounds 3 and 4 for a while here until I get my hat a bit taller. You can make this regular beanie, or you could make it slouchy. Slouchy would just, it is the same. You just add more rows to make it longer. Or just, you know, however you want it to fit your head. But I'm going to keep repeating 3 and 4. We're always going to have 60 stitches. And I'm going to keep going, and I'll let you know how many total rows of 3 and 4 that I do here in just a second. Okay, so here's mine right now. Right now mine measures right about 8 inches from top to bottom. I will be putting a little small brim on the bottom too. So once you get yours as tall as you want it to be, or measuring about 8 inches, what we're going to do, you want to make sure that you end in a row of where you did 2 double crochets in the front post double crochet row. Now what we're going to do is we ended with the slip stitch into our first double crochet. You want to pull a long tail, and we're going to sew up the top. So pull a long tail out and clip your yarn and get your yarn needle. Alright, so I got a real long tail here. It's probably like 3 feet. It's probably way too long, but go ahead and load up your yarn needle and we'll sew up the top. What I do when I sew up the top here is this: I go every other stitch back, and then I'll skip a stitch and go through the next. You can skip 2 stitches if you want, but I usually just skip one and then go back through. Make sure you're going through the top of the stitch. Try not to get snagged up on anything. That way when you pull it tight closed, it don't get knotted up on anything. And we're going to do this all the way around until we get back to the beginning, and then we'll be able to pull it shut. Put a palm on it if you want, and we'll work on the brim. So every other, back and forth. Till you get back to where you started. Okay, so I have made it all the way back around, and what you want to do is just kind of gently pull on it, and it'll gather up the top like that. You see that, how it's gathering? Don't pull it too hard. You don't want your yarn to break. Some yarn breaks easier than others, but once you get it pulled up to the top, there could still possibly be a little bit of a hole there, and that's fine. Now what we're going to do is just sew it all shut with the remainder of our tail. So if you have a little bit of hole there, as we're hiding our tail, just kind of sew that hole shut. Pull kind of tight. Make sure it's staying together. You don't want to pop it open on top of your head. Once you've done it enough and you feel that it's secure, you can go ahead and clip your yarn. Okay. Okay, so what I got so far. Now I'm going to go start at the bottom of my hat. And I'm going to work the back side of my hat where the seam is. That's where I'm going to start my yarn. So here's where I started in the beginning. So now I'm going to grab my yarn again and just start somewhere around here where the seam's at. Or somewhere around here in any stitch on the back of your hat. And go through any stitch, pull up a loop, and chain 1. Now go back into that same stitch and single crochet. Now I'm going to single crochet 1 time in every stitch all the way around. I'm going to try to hide these tails as I go. Carry both of them with me as I go. So this will be round 1 of the brim. And I'm working 1 single in every stitch until I get back to my starting point. Okay, so once you make it back to the beginning, we're going to go ahead and end with a slip stitch into our first single crochet, and you should have 60 stitches. If you don't, as long as it's close to that, you know, that's fine. Now I'm going to do another round. I'm going to chain 1, go back into that same stitch and single crochet, and I'm going to go around again putting 1 single crochet in every stitch. So you can do as many rows of single crochet as you would like for the brim. So I always like to try the hat on and see. This might be my last row, but I'm not sure. But I'm just repeating what we just did, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch until I make it back to my starting point. Okay, so I went ahead and done a total of 3 rounds of single crochet at the bottom. You can do more if you want. I'm going to go ahead and stop there. But try it on, and if you want it to be, man, I got the dullest scissors ever, more slouchy or more, the brim thicker, that's completely up to you, you know, however you want it. Then what you want to do is hide this tail, and then you can apply your pom-pom. If you want to put a pom-pom. If not, you don't have to. It looks cool the way it is too. But pom-poms, I can give you a quick. Okay, so my pom-pom's the type with the button snap. So what I'll do is use a regular thread and needle and sew it to the top of my hat, and then it'll snap on. That way you can it has to snap here already on the pom. That way you can take it off if you want when you wash. But like I said, I'll sew it really tight with regular thread and regular needle, and then snap it on the top. Now some pom-poms have elastic bands. Those you can either sew on with a yarn and the yarn needle, or some people put just a regular button inside the hat, and then they will put that elastic from the pom through the top and just attach the elastic to that button, and that way it's removable during washing. Also, either one is acceptable. So I'm going to go ahead and sew my pom-pom on. Okay, so I am done with my hat here. Got my pom on. Hat's finished. Now we'll go ahead and do the scarf, which is very, very easy. It is actually easier than the hat, because in the hat we worked in the round, which made us have to do back post double crochets, which aren't hard, but front posts are always easier. And when you work the scarf, we work only front post double crochets because we're working back and forth. Now, if you want to make your scarf wider than mine, so the chain amount that we make is the width of the scarf. It's just how wide it is, and then we work to the length. So if you want to make it wider, this is done in a multiple of 3 plus 2. So for mine, I started out with a chain of 23. So 21 was my multiple of 3, and then I added 2 more for a total of 23 stitches. Okay, so I got my 23 stitches here. Don't mind my hook, it's the same size. It's still the J. I lost the other one for some reason. I don't know. It's amazing how fast you can lose a hook. Okay, once you get your chain amount, I got my chain of 23 done. Now I'm going to do a double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook. Now remember, we don't count the one that's on the hook. We count over 1, 2, 3, and 4, and double crochet in that 4th stitch. And then we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to the end of our row. Okay, so I've made it to the end of row 1, and I should have a total of 21 stitches, and that's counting this little chain here on the end. He counts as a stitch. So counting him, we'll have 21, and that's the number we're going to have the whole time for the rest of the pattern. So it's going to be 21. So rows 2 and 3 are the repeat rows. So we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet right back there into that very first stitch. Just like that. And then we're going to do a double crochet into the next stitch. Like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do a front post double crochet over the next 2 stitches. So front post double in that one, and front post double into the next. And now the next stitch, we're just going to do a regular double crochet right on top of it, just regular double. And then we're going to kind of repeat that by doing 1 front post double into the next 2 stitches. So front post double in this one, front post double into the next one, and then a regular double crochet into the top of the next. Again, front post double into the next 2 stitches. Just 1, go to the next one, front post double, 2, and then 1 regular double crochet into the top of the next. So I'm going to repeat this pattern until I get near the end of the row. Alright, I'm coming to the end of the row, and I just did 2 front post double crochets, and I have 2 stitches left. And since I'm at the end of the row, I'm just going to double crochet into those last 2, because we began the row with a double crochet in the first 2. Just like that, 21 stitches at the end of row 2. And now we're going to start row 3 by chaining 1 and turning our work. And we're going to put a double crochet into that very first stitch. Now this time we are going to put a front post double crochet into the next stitch. Just 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch. And then the next 2 stitches right here, which were post stitches for the previous row, we're just going to put a regular double crochet in the top of them, of each of them, like that. And then we front post double crochet around the next stitch, and regular double crochet into the top of the next 2. And this is a pattern we're going to repeat until we get to the end of row 3. And then front post double into the next. I think once you get to going on it, get your rows down, 2 double crochets in each of the next 2, it'll go by really fast. It's really a pretty quick stitch. Or 1 double in the next 2 stitches. Front post double crochet into the next, 1 double into the next 2 stitches. And you do this until you get to the end of the row. 1 double into, or 1 front post double crochet into the next, 1 double into the next 2 stitches. I'm almost to the end here, so I'll just finish out the row. 1 front post double crochet into the next. 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. 1 front post double crochet into the next, and then you'll have 1 stitch left, and go ahead and double crochet right into the top of it. Now that'll be the end of row 3. If you look, you can kind of see the waffles starting to take place, and you'll be able to see it the more rows that you get to going on it. You'll start to see it a lot more, but it'll go by pretty quick. So we just keep repeating rows 2 and 3 until we get the scarf. You can get it, make it as long as you want it to be. You can make it long and sew it together, make it an infinity scarf, whatevs. It's up to you, however long or short you want it to be. But just keep going until you get the scarf finished. And then once you're done with that, tie off, you're done. And then you got a nice hat and scarf set for yourself or as a gift. I think it's cool. It has a lot of texture. Now, like I said, I'm not really a slouchy or a palm fan, but for some reason, this palm really works well with this yarn. I like it. So I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram, on Facebook, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Give this a big thumbs up. Check out all my crochet content. If you don't crochet, if you're a knitter, check out all my yarn content. I hold giveaways. It's just all in all a good time here, I think, anyways. So thanks everybody for watching. Have a good day. Hey everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this corner to corner scarf and hat set. But first I want to remind you, ask you please, not to forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Check out all my content. I got hundreds of crochet tutorials and lots of yarn content. I think you might like it here. Okay, so this is a very easy stitch to do. This is the scarf. So width wise, it's about 7 inches, and length, I have some tails to hide, please excuse that, it's about 72 or so. You can make it longer if you want, but that is what it looks like. Okay, scarf. Now the hat is done corner to corner, but it is done in the round. It is not worked back and forth. So it will look just a little bit different since it's done in the round as opposed to working it back and forth. The working it in the round makes the rows straight across as opposed to, I guess, diagonal. But it's still the same stitch if you can see it. I think if I used a more solid yarn, you wouldn't even be able to tell a difference in that, actually. But I think it looks cool and it matches either way. My palm doesn't exactly match that well, but I couldn't find my white one, so I have to do with what I have. So yeah, this is worked in the round and it's worked from the bottom up. It's a bit of a slouch. You can make it shorter if you want. I'll give you a length in from the top down is about 10 inches. Now if you want the size, it should fit about 22, 23 inch head. And if you do want to make this smaller, because like I said, I am working it in the round, your starting chain, it needs to be when you get to the hat, I didn't say it, I don't think, the starting chain needs to be a multiple 4 to work this in the round. But I think it turned out pretty good, like I said. When you're working the corner to corner into the round, even though it's the same stitch, since you're working it in in a round, it's not going to have the same back and forth effect, diagonal effect as it does because you're working it back and forth. So, but they work well together because, you know, it is the same stitch and all. I like it. I think it turned out good. So, let's go and get started. I'll show you what yarn I used. Okay, for this project I use a Lion brand ice cream roving divigation. It is a medium weight number 4 roving style yarn. You do not have to use this yarn. Any medium weight number 4 yarn will work just fine. It's 100% acrylic. There are 437 yards per ball. Now I used almost 1 complete ball for the scarf, and then I used probably 180 yards maybe for the hat. That would be my guess. That's just a ballpark estimate. And remember, you don't have to use this. Any 4 weight will work. And then for the hat and scarf both, I'm going to be using a size J, which is a 6mm crochet hook. So we're going to go ahead and start on the scarf first. Okay, for the scarf, we want to start out with a chain of 6. Like that. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we are going to do a double crochet in the 4th stitch from our hook. So we don't count the one that's on our hook. So we just count over 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and go ahead and double crochet into that stitch. And then double crochet in the remaining 2 stitches. So the corner to corner is worked in groups of 3 double crochet and a chain 3 to go along with it. So if you look here, that's kind of what we have. This right here is these chains here that we skipped here. That's going to act as our chain 3, and then we have our 3 double crochets to go with it. So what we're going to do, we are going to increase our corner to corner. So this is the very corner part. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to do that same thing again. I don't turn my work until I do this part. It's just easier for me that way. So you know how some people chain and then turn. I think it's easier when you're working the corner to corner to do the double crochets and then turn your work. So I mean, it really makes no difference either way. But we're going to go ahead and yarn over, and we're going to skip 3 stitches, and we're going to double crochet in the 4th stitch again. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now what I do is turn my work. It's just easier for me that way. I don't know why, it just is. So that's what it kind of looks like. You got this is hanging off on the side. It's supposed to do that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come over here to this chain 3 here on the end of our very first block here, right here, and we're going to slip stitch right through it. Not in the chain spaces, or not in any of the stitches of the chain, right through it. So go right through it between that chain space and that double crochet and just slip stitch loosely, just like that. And that kind of locked that in place. And now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go back into this same space and work 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and there is 3. So that is kind of row 2, I guess, of your corner to corner. Now we're going to increase again. So we're going to start out when we increase by chaining 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm sorry, drop that one, and 6. And again, we are going to work a double crochet in the 4th stitch from our hook. So I'm not going to turn my work. I don't know why, I just don't turn my work when I do the corner to corner until I finish out this part. But if you feel more comfortable turning first, that's fine. So double crochet in the 4th stitch, and then you want to double crochet in the remaining 2 stitches of the chain. Like that. And then I'm going to turn my piece like that. So this will be hanging off to the side. That's fine. It's supposed to do that. So what we're going to do is the same thing that we did last time. We are going to go here to this next block, and we're going to find that chain space here on the end, and we're going to slip stitch right into it. Just like that. So that brought that up like that. Now what we're going to do is chain 3. We're going to make a regular block. It's not going to be an increase block. So when you do the regular block, you just chain 3 and then you work 3 double crochets back into the same space. 1, 2, and there's 3. And then again, we are going to slip stitch right here on our last block. This chain space here on the end, to slip stitch right through it, or right through the hole, not through any stitches, loosely. And then we're going to make a regular block. So we're going to do a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and work 3 more doubles in that same chain space. 1, 2, and 3. So that is row 3 of our corner to corner. Not too hard. Let's do it again. So now we need to start row 4 by increasing. So we start off with a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Double crochet in the 4th stitch from our hook. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. Now I'm gonna just turn my work just like that. I just flip it back over just like that. It's easier for me that way. I get confused if I don't do it like that. And then just like before, we are going to slip stitch right here into the next chain space. So right here. And that kind of locks that spot down. Now we're going to do a regular block here. So we're going to chain 3, and go back into the same chain space and work 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3, like that. Now we're going to go up to the next block here, and you see this chain space. We're going to slip stitch into it like that, and we're going to do a regular block. We only do the increase block when we're on the end. So we're going to chain 3, go back into the same chain space and work 3 double crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and 3. And then we're going to come up here to this block, this right here. We're going to slip stitch into that. And we're going to do a regular block to finish out this row. So we're going to chain 3 and work 3 more doubles in the same spot. Just like that. And that will finish out row 4. So we're going to do it again. We're going to keep doing it until we get the width that we want our scarf to be, which is 8 blocks across the bottom. So we're halfway there, and then I'll show you how to decrease on one side while you're still increasing on the other. So We're going to go ahead and increase now. We're going to continue increasing until we get 8 blocks across the bottom. That's how big that's how big I did my scarf. So we're going to go ahead and chain 6 again because we're going to do our increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Double crochet in the 4th from the hook. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then all I do when I turn is I take my big piece and I just flip it. It's just easy that way. I keep this in my hand and just flip that big piece over. And now what we're going to do is we're going to lock this one in place by slip stitching right here into the next chain 3 space of the next block. So just like we have been, just like that. Now we need to do regular blocks in each of these chain 3 spaces until it's time to increase on the other end. So we're going to chain 3, go back in and do 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then we go to our next block right here and we go right through this chain space and slip stitch. Chain 3, we're going to do a regular block. Chain 3 and 3 doubles through the same chain space. There's 1, 2, and 3. Again, up here, this block, next block, here's the chain 3 space, go right through it and slip stitch, and we're going to do a regular block, so that is a chain of 3 and 3 doubles back into the same spot. So there is 1, 2, and 3. And again, we're going to do a regular block here again on the last one. So here's the chain space, go right through it and slip stitch and chain 3 and 3 more doubles into the same stitch. 1, 2, and there's 3. Okay, that will complete row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now we're going to do a row 6 and we need to increase. So we're going to work a chain of 6, double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook, double crochet in the remaining 2 stitches. Now again, I'll show you how I flip my work. I hold this one in place and I take it and I just flip my big piece over just like that. That's how I do that. And then we're just going to go across doing irregular blocks all the way across until it's time to increase down here. So I'll find my next chain 3 space, which is right here, and I slip stitch into it. And that locks that one into place. And then we're going to go ahead and do our regular block, which is a chain 3 and 3 doubles into that same chain space. Find your next chain 3 space right here, slip stitch, chain 3, 3 doubles, 1, 2, 3, and find your next chain 3 space right here, regular block, so chain 3, 3 doubles, next block right here, find your chain 3 space, slip stitch into it, do a regular block, so chain 3 and 3 doubles back into the same spot. And then we need to do one more regular block here at the top. So we need to find this chain 3 space up here on the end, go into it and slip stitch, chain 3 and do your regular block, 3 more doubles, and that will end round or row 6 that we're on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just gonna, normally I wouldn't make the video so long, but I'm just gonna go ahead and continue till we get to where we need to decrease. Usually I'll stop and let you go, but I'm just gonna go with you. All right, now we're gonna increase again. So we're gonna chain 6 and a double crochet in the 4th stitch from our hook. Double crochet into the next 2 stitches, turn your work. So I just hold this one in place, flip this right over just like that, and find my next chain 3 space on my next block, which is right here. Slip stitch into it like that. Now we're going to do regular blocks in all of our chain 3 spaces until we get to the end. So we chain 3, 3 doubles back into the same spot, jump up here to the next block, find the chain 3 space on the end, slip stitch in it, regular block. So we chain 3, 3 doubles back in the same spot, next block, find the chain 3 on the end, slip stitch into it, chain 3, 3 doubles back in the same spot, next block, chain 3 on the end, slip stitch into it, regular block. So we chain 3, go back in and work 3 doubles back in the same spot, next block, chain 3 on the end, slip stitch, regular block. So we chain 3, 3 doubles back in the same spot. If I'm going too fast for you, I apologize. YouTube does have a slow mode button that you can slow me down. And then here on the end, see this chain space, slip stitch, regular block here on the end. So we chain 3, 3 doubles back in the same spot. That'll end round 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more row, and then I'm going to show you how to continue increasing on this side and decreasing on this side, so the scarf doesn't get any wider on this side but just starts growing taller and taller on this side. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's chain 6 and double crochet in the 4th from the hook. 1, 2, 3, and then I just hold my piece, flip my work. There we go. Now we are going to find our first chain 3 space right here and continue doing what we have been doing. Slip stitch into it and do our regular block, chain 3, 3 doubles back into that same spot. There's 1, 2, 3. Next block, chain 3 space, slip stitch, regular block, chain 3, 3 doubles back into the same spot. Next block right here, slip stitch, regular block, so we chain 3, go back into the same spot, 3 doubles, next block, chain 3 here on the end, slip stitch, chain 3 again to do our regular block, and then 3 doubles, next block, chain 3 on the end, slip stitch into it, chain 3, doing our regular block, 3 doubles, next block, chain 3 here on the end, slip stitch into it, do our regular block, so we chain 3, 3 doubles, and then we got to do a regular block here on the end. So right here at the top, this chain 3, we slip stitch into it, chain 3, and 3 doubles into it. It's like that. Okay, so that is the width that my scarf is going to be. It's 8 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, you can make it wider by continuing to increase both sides like we've been doing. That's how people make big blankets. But I don't want it to be any wider, so that means I have to decrease on this side while I continue to increase on this side, if that makes sense. So it's going to stop growing on one side and continue growing on the other. That way it'll form a narrow scarf. Okay, let's go ahead and start. We are going to start by increasing this. The same side is always the side. You're always going to increase on the same side. So we're going to start right here, and we're going to start this out as an increase. So it's just the chain 6. That's how we do our increase. We've been doing it the whole time. Double in the 4th stitch from our hook. And then in the remaining 2 stitches, turn your work, and now we need to work across like we have been doing. So we go right here to our chain 2 or chain 3 space and a slip stitch like that. And we do our regular block, so we chain 3 and 3 doubles back into the same spot. Go to our next block right here, chain 3 space on the end, slip stitch, chain 3 to do our regular block, 3 doubles back into the same stitch. Next block, chain 3 space, slip stitch into it, do our regular block, so we chain 3 and 3 doubles back into the same spot. Next block, chain 3 on the end, slip stitch through it, chain 3, 3 doubles back in the same spot. Next block, chain 3 on the end, slip stitch. Don't know why I keep dropping my stitches. Chain 3 and do our regular block. Next block, slip stitch, chain 3, 3 doubles, Next block, slip stitch in that chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 doubles, okay, and we do have to put a okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to slip stitch into this block right here, like that. We're going to chain 3. This is what we're going to do to decrease and turn our work. See that? We did not do an increase on this end. Show you one more time. That's how we decrease, and we always decrease on the same end. So when we get here, instead of putting another block or anything into this last spot, we just slip stitch into the chain 3 space, chain 3, and then just flip your work like that. Okay, and now what we're going to do is go up to the chain 3 space of the next block right here and slip stitch into it like that, and then we do our regular block. So we chain 3 and work 3 double crochets back into the same stitch. So that's how you decrease that end. It will never have a chain 6 again on that end, ever. Okay? And then we're just going to continue what we've been doing. There's the chain 3 of the next stitch. We slip stitch into it. Do a regular block, chain 3, 3 doubles back into the same stitch. So I'm going to continue this pattern of doing the regular blocks in each of these chain 3 spaces here. You know, you slip stitch, chain 3, 3 doubles. Slip stitch, chain 3, 3 doubles, all the way up here until I get to the end, and I'll meet you up here. Okay, I'm coming up here to the end. This is my increase side, so I do have to do a regular block right here at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into it, and I'm going to chain 3 and go back into it and do my 3 doubles. Now I have to increase on this side. Okay, so we got to do our chain 6 here, and double crochet in the 4th stitch from the hook, just like normal, and then double crochet in the remaining 2 stitches. That, turn your work, and come over here to the next block, just like always, and slip stitch into that chain 3 space and do a regular block, chain 3 and 3 doubles back into that same spot. So I am going to continue doing my regular blocks into each of these chain 3 spaces until I get down here, and I'll show you how to decrease again. Okay, so I'm going to continue along each of these chain 3 spaces as a slip stitch, chain 3, 3 doubles, slip stitch, chain 3, 3 doubles, all the way until we get, I'll meet you right about here, right around the last one or so. Okay, so I've made it here to the end, and I just did my last block, and as you can see, I'm right here. There's chain 3 space here at the end. I do not want to increase anymore, so I just want to slip stitch into that chain 3 space, and then I want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and flip my work. There we go. I did not increase at all, so I just start again. On this block right here, the chain 3 space, I just slip stitch right through it. And then I start my regular block, 1, 2, 3, and then I work 3 double crochets into the same stitch. So that is how it's done. It's actually pretty easy. Now you can rewind me and watch me again if you want, but now remember, this is as wide as it's going to be. Always increase on your long end. Increasing is by chaining 6 and then going down the chain. Never ever increase on this side anymore. We always just end with the chain 3 and turn our work and start again doing our regular blocks. Now I'm going to continue this until I get my scarf a lot longer. And when I get it to the length that I want it to be, I will, I'll show you how you start decreasing this side as well as this side, and then it will come to a square across. So it'll be straight across at the top. So I'll meet you back up there in just a second. Okay, so once you get your scarf as long as you want it to be, we're going to close up. I'm going to show you how to decrease the top so it's flat and it's not at an angle like this. So mine right now, from the bottom up to the point, measures, I don't know, in between 70 and 72 inches. I didn't have quite a flat surface to measure it on, but somewhere around there. So I'm going to show you how we're going to decrease. So, I showed you how we've been decreasing this side so it doesn't get any larger this way. It's only going straight up now. Now what we're going to do is decrease this side so it starts going over at the same time this one goes up, and eventually it'll meet and be flat like the bottom. So it's basically, we just do the same thing that we did over here on this side, but we're going to do it here. So normally right here is where we would do the chain 6 and increase, but we're not going to do that now. What we're going to do is chain 3 and turn our work. And now we're going to work down like normal. So we're just going to slip stitch into this chain 3 space here, like that, and chain 3 and do our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. So it's just like we've been doing. My yarn's all tangled up. What a mess, what a mess. And then we come out to our next one like before, just like we've been doing, into that space, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 doubles back into that spot. So we're doing the same thing we've been doing, and I'm going to continue doing that until we get to the other side, and I'll meet back up with you when we get down here. Slip stitch into in this space right here in between the double crochet and chain 3, just like normal. Chain 3 again, 3 doubles into the same spot. Okay, I've made it down here to the end, and we're just going to decrease it like we have been doing before. So just slip stitch here like always into that space, chain 3, and turn our work. So now it's just decreasing both sides the same way. We're not doing the chain 6 anymore. So I'm going to slip stitch here into my chain 3 space, chain 3, and work my 3 doubles. Find my next chain 3 space, go right in between it, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 doubles. Just like, like we've been doing. All the way until we get to the last spot. Now let's go ahead and get to it real quick. Okay, so I got one more here. Like that. So now what we're going to do is we are decreasing this, remember. So we're going to just go ahead and slip stitch into this chain 3 space. Normally this was the increase side, but since we're not increasing anymore, we're going to do the same thing here that we've been doing down here. So we're just going to chain 3, turn the work, and start again by slip stitching into this space right here on the end, this chain 3 space. We just go right into it and slip stitch, and now you can see it's making the top go flat like it's supposed to. And then we just do what we normally been doing, chain 3 and 3 doubles back into that same spot. There's 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, work 3 doubles. There's 1, 2, 3, slip stitch into that next chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 doubles, slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 doubles, do this till you get to the end. Of course it's on white when I get to the time that I have to record. Hope you can see it okay. So we're at the end and we just do it the same as normal. Slip stitch into that chain 3 space, chain 3, flip your work here, and then we start again by slip stitching right here into this chain space, and do as normal, chain 3, 3 doubles into that spot, and we're going to work our way back up to the top. Slip stitch into this spot, chain 3. I get nervous when I'm on camera and I don't stop it. Now my yarn's tangled. Okay, I've made it up here to the top again, and like you can tell it's going flat across like it's supposed to because we quit decreasing. So again, I'm just going to slip stitch into this chain space here, and I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work and start again, and eventually we're going to wind up at a point sooner rather than later because we're almost there. So just slip stitch into this space right here, start again with your chain 3, 3 doubles into the same spot, slip stitch it to the next, chain 3, and you want to do this until you get over here to the end. Okay, I've made it to the end over here. Slip stitch like normal into that chain, into that space there, chain 3, flip your work. Oh, not that much more to go, a few more stitches. Go ahead and start like normal by slip stitching into this space here, and then chain 3, 3 doubles into that same space, chain 3 here, or slip stitch there, slip stitch into that spot, I'm sorry, and then chain 3, 3 doubles into the same spot, and now we're at the top. So we are going to slip stitch into this chain space here, and then we're going to chain 3 and flip our work And we are going to slip stitch into this space here, chain 3, 3 doubles in that space, and then we are, this is the last one. We're going to slip stitch right here into this space, and it's it. Look at that. We decreased it flat across. Now you can go ahead and clip that yarn. For some reason my scissors are always missing. I just had them. Okay, I found them on the floor. Go ahead and clip that off and hide that tail, and then we will start working on the hat. If you want to add fringe or anything to this, by all means you can add some fringe down here. I think it'd be cool to put some fringe in between each of these little spaces. I don't know, I might do that. I have a little bit of yarn left. I don't know if I will. But anyways, scarf's done. Looks pretty, I think. Turned out nice. So let's get started on that hat. Okay, the hat is going to be worked from the bottom up, and then we'll cinch it up together at the top. And so what you want to do is start out with a chain of 60, and then we're going to slip stitch into our first stitch to form a ring. So I have my chain of 60 here. Now I'm going to follow it down without twisting the chain, and I am going to slip stitch into my first stitch. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go back into that same stitch that we just slip stitched into and do a single crochet. And now we're going to work across all around the chain, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch. Just like that. So I'm going to go around my whole ring working 1 single crochet in every stitch, and I'll meet back up with you here at the end of round 1. Okay, when you get to the end of round 1, you should have a total of 60 stitches. So what we're going to do now is slip stitch into our first single crochet. Not the chain 1, but the first single crochet. Okay, now what we're going to do is start out row 2 with a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we are going to do a double crochet into the next stitch. And then we are going to do a half double crochet into the next stitch. And then we are going to do a single crochet into the next stitch. And then we are going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. Now I know this seems like really different than the way we did the corner to corner on the hat, but it will get a little bit similar here in just a minute. So you got like a little triangle kind of looking thing. You got your chain 3 here. You know, we had the chain 3 on our, when we did the corner to corner on the scarf, and then a double, a half double, a single, and a slip stitch. So what we're going to do is repeat that. So we're going to just start where we slip stitch. So we slip stitched in this stitch right here. So we're just going to go ahead and work our chain 3 from starting from the slip stitch like that. And then we're going to work a double crochet into the next stitch. A half double crochet into the next, single into the next, and a slip stitch into the next, like that. And then we're gonna keep repeating that. So we start our chain 3 right here where we ended our slip stitch. So I slip stitch, so now I'm gonna chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna work again. Double crochet into the next stitch, half double into the next, single into the next, and slip stitch into the next, just like that. So you're getting these little triangle like things. I'm going to show you one more time, repeat it one more time for you, because we're just going to continue this repeat all the way around. So right where I slip stitch, I'm just going to start again by doing a chain of 3, and we double crochet into the next stitch, half double into the next, single into the next, and slip stitch into the next. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. So right where we slip stitched, we'll start our chain 3 again. And I'm going to keep going, and I'll meet back up with you when we get back up here to the beginning. Okay, now I'm coming here to my last triangle. So I did by slip stitch and I chain 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do a double crochet into the next, and then I'm going to do a half double crochet into the next, and then I'm going to do a single crochet into the last, and now I'm going to end by slip stitching into the same stitch here that we slip stitched in the beginning. So right underneath this chain 3, we are going to slip stitch, and that will end row 1 of our hat. All right, so you should have 15 now of these little triangle thingy things. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start making some things that look more like corner to corner, hopefully. Okay, so we're gonna do a chain of 3, and we're gonna turn our work. So we will be turning our work every round, so it gets it the back and forth look that the corner to corner has. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be pretty normal to the corner to corner. We're going to jump right here to this chain 3 space. We're going to slip stitch into it, and then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to work 3 double crochets into that space. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to come over here, and we're going to find our next chain 3 space right here. And you know what, we're going to skip all these stitches here. Here's our chain 3 space. So right into it, just like the scarf, right into that space, go ahead and slip stitch. And then again, we're going to chain 3 and work 3 double crochets back into that same spot. And there's 1, 2, and 3. Now I will give you, that's what we're going to repeat all the way around. If you feel like you don't like the gaps on it, you can do half doubles instead of, like 3 half doubles instead of 3 doubles if you want. It'll close up that gap a little bit more, but I always like to prefer to do doubles. But you know, if you want to do half doubles instead, it will still work. So again, we are going to slip stitch into this space here, chain 3 space, between the chain 3 space and the double crochet, just like normal, and chain 3 and work our 3 half double crochet, or 3 double crochets. Like I said, you could do half doubles there if you want, but I prefer to do 3 doubles. Again, find your next chain 3 space right here, slip stitch into it, chain 3, and 3 doubles into that space. Now we're going to repeat this all the way around until we get back to our starting point. There you go. And that's what it's starting to look like. Hopefully it'll look a little bit better, more rows we do. Okay, I am coming to the end of row 3 now, is what we're on. Row 1 was single crochet, row 2 was a little triangle dilly dads that we did, or whatever they were, and row 3 here. So we're going to end row 3. I just did a chain 3 and 3 doubles into this last chain 3 space, and this is what it looks like now. There's a chain 3 here and a chain 3 here. We want to end by slip stitching in the base of this chain 3. So slip stitch right there, and you'll have your 15 of these. So what we're going to do again is kind of repeat that. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work. So again, I'm just going to skip over all these stitches, and then this chain 3 space right here, I am going to slip stitch. And then I'm going to work a chain 3, go back into the space and work 3 double crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Again, I'm going to slip stitch into this chain 3 space right here, like that, chain 3, and 3 doubles into that same space. There's 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch into this chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 doubles back into that same chain space. So I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to my starting point. Slip stitch in this space right here, chain 3, 3 doubles back into the same spot. Okay, I'm going to continue this until I get back over here to my starting point. Alright, I made it back around again. Row 4, what we did actually was just kind of repeated row 3. So, here we are again. So, we have 15 of these things. And here is a chain space, here is a chain space. We want to end the round by slip stitching in the base of this chain 3 right here. So, right in the spot, and that is it. And then we chain 3 and turn our work and repeat again. So we're just going to keep repeating that row. It's actually repeating row 3, but we just did row 4. Now I'm going to repeat it again and do row 5. Remember, it's the same. You'll always have 15 of these little clusters at the end of every round, and you'll always turn back and forth at the end of every round. So I did my chain 3, and I'm going to slip stitch right here into this chain 3 right here. Start again, chain 3, go into the same spot and do 3 double crochets. And slip stitch into the next chain 3 space, chain 3, 3 double crochets into the same spot. See, this isn't hard at all, is it? 1 row repeat. Doesn't get easier than a 1 row repeat. Slip stitch into your next chain 3 here, chain 3 again, 3 doubles into that same spot. So I'm going to continue repeating what I said. We're actually just repeating row 3, but we're on row 5 now because I repeated it now. And we're going to repeat it until we get it a little taller, and then we will need to do something before we cinch it together at the top. I'm not quite sure how many rows I'm going to do, but I'm going to keep going here. Just repeating that one row. It's very easy until I get to my stopping point, and I'll let you know how many total rows I do of this. Remember, 15 cluster thingies at the end of every round, and remember to turn your work every time, back and forth, back and forth. That way it matches up with your scarf, because you turn your work with that back and forth, back and forth. So I'll turn it around here and show you what we got so far. Looking pretty good. Alright, I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so I have done a total of 15 rounds, and that includes starting with the first round of single crochet that we did, and then we did that little like triangle row, and then keep counting. So that would be 1, triangle row would be 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now I'm going to do another round just to try to even out these shells a little bit, so they're not it's easier to cinch it up that way. It's not going to be perfect, but what I'm going to do is chain 1 and turn my work. So you should be on the front side of your work. Okay. So I'm going to go back into that same stitch that I just slip stitched into and single crochet. Like that. Okay, and then I'm going to single crochet across these 3 stitches here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and here is the chain space. So we're just gonna skip that chain space, and we're gonna put a double crochet way down here, like that. And then we're gonna do a half double crochet and a single crochet. And we're gonna, here's the chain space, we're just gonna skip that, go all the way down here to the first stitch and do a double crochet, a half double crochet, and a single crochet. Again, skip that chain space, put a double crochet way down here in this bottom stitch, half double crochet into the next, and single into the next. Skip this chain space, we don't do anything to it, and we repeat by putting a double crochet way down here in the bottom, half double into the next, and then we single into the next. And it's just kind of straightening out the top. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay, because we're going to be cinching that up and you're not even going to be able to see it, so it doesn't really have to be perfect. Skip the chain space again, excuse me, double crochet down here into that next stitch, half double into the next, and single into the next. Don't do anything with this chain space, we just skip it, and double crochet directly again down in the bottom stitch, half double into the next, and single into the next. Skip the chain space and repeat. Double crochet down there into that bottom double crochet, half double into the next double crochet, and single into the next. There we go. So I'm going to repeat this all the way around until I make it back to my starting point. Okay, I've made it back to the beginning at the end of round 16, and just go ahead and end by slip stitching into your first single crochet here. So I ended in a single crochet up here, just skip this chain space, slip stitch into your first single, and I'm not going to count. It doesn't really matter how many stitches you have now, but leave it, cut off a long tail so we can sew up at the top. So you're going to need a yarn needle. Let me grab mine here. Okay, and pull that tail through, and we're just going to kind of, I always leave way too much of a tail, but better enough than not enough. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through every other stitch at the top neatly. Pull through like this, and then I'm going to skip a stitch and go from behind and go through the next. I'm going to do this all the way around, and then this is how we'll close up the top. So then I'll skip a stitch and go through the next stitch from this way. Try not to get it tangled up if you can. Skip a stitch, go from the back side of the next stitch, skip a stitch and go from the front side to the back, skip a stitch, go from the back to the front. So what I'm doing is I'm not going round and round and round. I'm doing it back and forth, stitch up motion. That way we can just pull it at the end and it should close up at the top. So I'm going to do this all the way around. You could do every stitch if you want, but I'm just skipping a stitch and doing that. Do this until you get back to your starting point. Okay, so I've made it back to the beginning, and now what you want to do is gently pull your piece like this. Especially if you're using a roving type of yarn, sometimes they're easy to break, but just kind of gently pull it a little bit at a time, and that'll close up the top. Don't pull too hard, you'll snap your yarn. I hate when that happens. It makes me mad. I learned to be a little bit gentler with it. Okay, so you might have a little bit of a hole here. That's okay. Get it as tight as you can. Now we're going to take our leftover and we'll sew it together neatly the rest of the way. And as you're sewing it together, that tiny hole that's left, you are hiding your tail at the same time. Two birds with one stone. I'm going to put a palm on mine, so it's going to hide up any sewing that I don't do a good job at, but you still want to try to do it neatly just in case you don't want a palm on it. Just do it a few times until that hole is sewed up and you feel like your tail is hidden good enough. Okay, I think I'm going to call that quits for me, so I'm going to clip that off with my doll scissors. There we go. Okay, so yeah, that looks good so far. Now I'm just going to go around the bottom real quick and clean up that bottom edge. And you can add a brim if you want. If you want to try the hat on, it's a bit of a slouch, not much. If you want it to be longer, that's fine. You can add like a bigger brim on it or something. That would be nice. But what I'm going to do is, remember, this is the right side of our work. So I'm going to start back here, kind of where we started in the beginning, just so I can hide this somewhere in one of these stitches. I'm going to pull my yarn through, and I'm going to chain one. I'm going to go back into that same stitch and single crochet. Now I'm going to do one single crochet in every stitch around. I'm going to try to hide these tails as I go. The less tails I have to sew in, the better. Well, I think so anyways. So I'm going to work my way around, putting one... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm off camera. I've got a different camera stand. I don't really like it. One single crochet in every stitch all the way around until you make it back to the beginning. So this is the finishing brim, or the finishing edge. You can make this as big as you want to have how many rows of single crochet you'd like. That just gives it a nice clean edge at the bottom. So I'm going to continue around until I make it back to my starting point. Alright, I have made it back to the beginning, and you should have a total of 60 stitches there, because that's what we started with. I'm going to go around one more time with another row of single crochet. Like I said, you can be done. You could slip stitch here and tie off. I'm going to do one more round, or you could do a bunch of rounds, but I'm going to put a stitch marker right here. So I'm just using this piece of yarn. That way I know where I end and where I begin. I'm just going to jump over to the next single crochet and single crochet in it. And then I'm going to work one more round of one single crochet in every stitch here till I get back to my starting point. Okay, I've made it back to my stitch markers. I still should have 60 stitches, so I'm just going to pull that marker out, and I'm going to be finished now. I'm going to make my brims done. Go ahead and end by slip stitching into my next single crochet, and then I'm going to tie this off, and I'm going to hide the tail. I'm going to show you how I hide a tail. A lot of people ask me to start showing that. I will. So when I hide a tail, I always go back into that same stitch that is slip stitched into from the front to the back, and it makes it look a little bit more even, I guess you can say. See that? And then I will flip my work over, and I will weave it in through the last row that I just did, but I don't want to pull it too tight to make it uneven here. I don't know, I'm kind of weird about it being even when I hide my tails, or as even as possible, so there's not a bump where I hide my tails. That's weird, I guess. That's weird. But anyways, and then I weave it in a few times, and then I just flip it and I go back in the opposite direction and weave it again back the opposite way. That's not going to come undone. That kind of locks it in place if you go back in the opposite direction. If you want, you can go in the opposite, back in the opposite direction again, you know, just to be certain. There you go, that ain't going anywhere. Okay, now then I clip that, and that is how I hide my tails. Not too much of a visible bump, I guess, there, back there. A little bit, I guess. More than what I'd like, but okay, that's it. Oh, I gotta put a palm on. If you want to put a palm, you don't have to. You don't have to, but you can. Okay, so I don't know if this palm matches really well with it, but I like it. And I can't find my all white palms, so it's gonna work. I think it looks okay. What do you guys think? I don't know. Let me look around for my all white ones. Alright, this one's gonna have to work. Okay, anyways. It may not match, but it's gonna work for this video. So, there's many ways you can attach a palm. Okay, so this particular palm has a built-in button right here. So what you would do is, it has another piece of, or built-in snap button. It has another snap piece, and you would use a regular threaded needle and sew it right here, and that way you could take the palm off and on for washing. Some buttons have, or some palms have elastic, and what you could do there is sew a button, just a regular button on the inside, and pull your elastic through and wrap it around that button, and that way you can remove it for washing. Me, I hot glue my palms on. I'll tell you why I do that now. It's probably frowned upon, but it's the way I've always done it. Never had a problem before. So I will take this palm and I will hot glue it right on to the top of my hat, like that. It'll never come off. The reason why it won't come off is because I hand wash my items. I do not put them in the washer. So I will, when the time comes that I hand wash, for me to hand wash this, I'll wash it in gentle in the sink, on cool, just gently wash it in cool water in the sink, and lay it flat to dry, and I can just floof my palm back up with a hairdryer. and it's like nothing ever happened. Now if you was to put it in the dryer, I'm not sure if the pom-pom will like mess up or not. I don't know. I've never washed pom-pom in the dryer, so I couldn't tell you, but that's how I do it. I call it perma-pom because once it's hot glued on, it's never going to come off as long as you don't put it in a washer or dryer. So, but like I said, I will always hand wash, so I have no problem perma-pomming my stuff on. So I'm gonna get my gun, my hot glue gun, and put this non-matching pom on real quick. Okay, so there's my non-matching pom on my hat, but that's okay. It'll work. And here is my scarf. I still gotta hide a couple tails, but it is finished. So I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram if you make this. Hashtag me, Bagoday Crochet on Instagram. Show me what you made. Even if it's not this. Show me what you knitted. Show me some new yarn you got. I like all that stuff. Anything you think I like, hashtag me. Don't forget to give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good day. Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this matching scarf here. It has the basic single and double and front post double stitches also in it. I did not color control this project either, in case anybody asks. This scarf is about 6 foot long and about 6 inches wide. I'll give you the multiple so you can adjust the length. And then I have a matching slouchy. Now slouchies are made to be a little bit bigger. So there's this. Now I'm not a slouchy person. I don't generally wear those. So, but some people are. So I also made a regular beanie to match also. So you could choose or make all of them like I did. Yes, this was much more my style. But they all are matching. They're all a matching set. So what do you think? You want to get started on it? It's really pretty easy. As long as you can do that front post double crochet, I think you can do it. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, for this project, I'm using Caron Swirl Cakes. It is an acrylic wool blend, and it's a bulky number 5. You don't have to use this yarn. I do recommend using a bulky 5. If you don't have a bulky 5, you could use 2 strands of regular 4-weight together at the same time, which will equal a bulky 5. The color that I'm using is called Toasted Marshmallow. Now, this cake has 252 yards. I was able to get my scarf out of one whole cake and then 2 hats out of another cake. So it took me 2 cakes to make 2 hats and 1 scarf. Now, as for the hook size, the pattern for the regular beanie, you follow the same pattern as the slouchy. The only difference is the hook size. So the pattern for the hats are the exact same. You just determine whether you want both, or if you want the regular beanie style, or if you want the slouchy. If you want the regular beanie, my favorite, you want to be using a size K, which is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. And if you want to make the slouchy, you want to use a size N, which is a 9 millimeter crochet hook. Same pattern, follow along, and it's just a different sizing. In the video, I'll be making the slouchy, so I will be using the 9 millimeter. You also use the 9 millimeter for the scarf. So only difference is if you want the regular beanie, you knock it down to a 6.5. Other than that, it's the same pattern on the hat. So first we will start on the hat. So we're going to start off with a slip knot on our hook. And let's go ahead and work a chain of 4. And now I'm going to be slip stitching into the first stitch to form a ring. Now if you prefer to use the magic circle here, that would be fine too. Now I'm going to chain 1. Now that chain 1 is not going to count as a stitch. It doesn't count as anything. So we're going to be working through the center of the ring here. We want to work 12 double crochets. So I'm going to yarn over and go through the center of the ring, draw up a loop, and work a double crochet. I want to work 12, so that would be number 1. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I have my 12 double crochets there, and if you pull your tail, it'll close up that center circle a little bit more, and then later on we can sew it together the rest of the way at the end. So you want to go ahead and end round 1 by slip stitching into our first double crochet, not the chain 1 we did, but the first double crochet. Slip stitch into that, and we'll have 12 stitches now. So now we're going to start round 2. We're going to start round 2 by chaining 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. It won't count as anything. So we're going to work right back here into the same stitch here that we just slip stitched into, and we're going to work 2 double crochets into that spot. So there's 1, and there's 2. And now I'm going to work around for round 2, working 2 double crochets into every stitch all the way around. So there's 2 into my next stitch, 2 into the next, and I'm going to repeat this pattern of 2 double crochets in every stitch until I get back to my starting point. Alright, I have made it to the end of round 2, and you should have a total of 24 stitches now. Now we're going to go ahead and end round 2 by slip stitching into our first double crochet, just like that, and we're going to go ahead and start round 3. We're going to start round 3 by chaining 1, which does not count as a stitch. We're going to work right back into the same spot that we just slip stitched into, and we're going to work 1 double crochet into that stitch. And now the next stitch, we're going to be working 2 double crochets into the same stitch. And that will be the repeat for round 3. It's going to be 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 doubles into the next. One double into the next, and then 2 doubles into the next. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back to our starting point. Alright, I have come to the end of round 3, and you should have ended with 2 double crochets in your last stitch, and now you should have a total of 36 stitches. And we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first double crochet. And we're going to work on round 4 now, and we're going to start off by chaining 1. We're going to work 1 double crochet back into that very first stitch that we slip stitched into, and then we're going to work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Now the next stitch, we're going to put 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So that'll be the repeat for round 4. It's going to be 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 double, 1 double, and then the next stitch is going to get 2 doubles into the same stitch. Again, 1 double, 1 double, and 2 doubles into the next. Oops. And now we want to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back to our starting point. Alright, I've come to the end of round 4, and you should have ended again with 2 double crochets into your last stitch. You should have 48 stitches, and now we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first double crochet. Now 48 is going to be the magic number. That's the number we're going to keep for the remaining part of the hat. So we're going to go ahead, we're not going to be increasing anymore. So we're going to start by chaining 1. What we're going to do is we are going to do a double crochet right back into that very first stitch. And now we're going to do a front post double crochet around the next stitch. So we're going to yarn over, go around the post of it, and a double crochet. That. Then we're going to do a regular double crochet into the top of the next stitch. And front post double crochet around the next. So not this one, because that's where this double crochet went into. So we got to go around the next one. Again, double crochet into the top of the next, and a front post double crochet around the next. And this is a pattern we're going to repeat for round 5. Double crochet into the top of the next, and front post double crochet around the next. And I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around until I get back to my starting point. And you can kind of start to see the posts a little bit. Okay, I've made it here to the end of round 5, and you should still have your 48 stitches. Now I'm starting to get into the black, so I hope you're able to see what I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first double crochet here. You should have ended in the front post double crochet. Now we are going to repeat that, but we're going to do it opposite. So we started with a double crochet last time. Now we're going to start with a front post double crochet. So we're going to chain 1. Now this first one will be a little bit difficult because we have that chain 1 here on the side of it in the regular double crochet. You can choose to go around both of them, or you can just choose to go around the double crochet itself. I'm just going to go around both of them. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go around both of them like that and do a front post double crochet like that. And now the next stitch you can see is a post stitch from the previous round. We're going to do a regular double crochet into the top of that. Now the next stitch, we're going to do a front post double crochet. So this stitch right here, that was a double crochet from the previous row. We're going to go around that and front post double crochet. Next stitch was a post stitch from the previous round. We're just going to do a regular double crochet into the top of it. Next stitch, we're going to do a front post double crochet, and you can see it's just a double crochet from the previous row. So go right around it and front post. So what we're doing is it's kind of making the posts catty cornered, I guess, from each other, you can say. Next stitch, be regular double, and then front post double around the next. So we're not keeping our posts lined up. We're actually making them go opposite of each other. Regular double and front post double. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we get back to our starting point. Hat's starting to turn inward. There we go. Alright, I have come to the end of round 6, and it's okay if your hat, the post stitches are flipping up. They will do that, but we will fix them as we go on. So if they're flipping, don't worry about it. If they're supposed to. If they're not flipping, I'd be worried. But you want them to if they flip like that's fine. That's fine. We'll get them straightened out. Okay, so end of round 6 here, you should have ended in a regular double crochet on top of that front post double crochet from the previous row. and then we're gonna 48 stitches, and we're gonna end by slip stitching into our first front post double crochet here. Now rounds 7, 8, and 9 are all going to be the same. So we are going to start round 7 by chaining 1, and we're going to go back into that very first stitch and do a regular double crochet. And we're just going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around. So this is round 7. One double in every stitch until we get back to our starting point. Just like that. That yarn just blends together so well. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 7. I have 48 stitches still. I'm going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first double crochet. Now remember I said round 7, 8, and 9 are all the same. So I just finished out round 7. I'm going to do 8 and 9 is going to be a repeat of round 7. It's just 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I will start round 8 by chaining 1, go back into that same stitch and double crochet, and I'm going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch around. And when I get back to the beginning, I'll still have 48 stitches, and then I'll start again on round 9 with another row of 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I will meet back up with you when I finish out round 9. Remember, we're on round 8 right now. Alright, I have made it to the end of round 9, and I still have my 48 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first double crochet. Now what we're going to do is that it will end the repeat. So we are going to repeat rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I will put timestamps for that in the comment section. If you look down there, it'll be the first comment, and it'll timestamp these rows. So if you click on row 5, it'll take you right back to row 5, and it'll show you what to do again. So row 10 is going to be a repeat of row 5. Row 11 will be a repeat of row 6, and so on and so on. So we're going to repeat rows 5 through 9 for another complete repeat. Okay, so I have done another whole complete repeat rows. So I did my repeated 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 one more time. So I did my 2 rows of post stitches that are catty cornered and 3 rows of double crochet, and I ended I have a total from row 1 all the way down to 14 rows now. But I'm going to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first double crochet, and I'm going to tie this off and hide the tail. Now remember, this is a slouchy beanie, so it's going to be a bit big. Okay, so remember, this is a slouchy, so slouchies always are a little bit bigger in the back. That's the way it looks. I'm not really much of a slouchy person, but that's it. I think it looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started on the scarf. Now the scarf is made pretty similar, yet just a little bit different. Differently. We're going to be incorporating some single crochets into our scarf pattern. So the scarf is done. If you want to make it wider than what mine was, and any even number will work just fine. Now for mine, I started out with a chain of 18. Okay, now once I got my chain of 18 done, you want to go ahead and single crochet in the second stitch from the hook. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. Just like this. Okay, I made it to the end of round 1. 17 stitches. So 17 is the magic number for the scarf. So that's the number we're going to have the whole time. It's always going to be 17 stitches. So row 2 is going to start the repeat rows. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a chain of 2. Now that chain of 2 is going to act like a double crochet. We're not going to chain 3, we're going to chain 2. And then we are going to turn our work. And when we are not going to go into this very first stitch because that chain 2 is taking the spot of that stitch. So we're going to work right here. And we're going to go into that one. Remember, not this very first one, but the next one. And we're going to double crochet. And we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch for the length, or for till we get to the end of row 2. Alright, I'm coming to the end of row 2. I'm going to go ahead and double crochet here in my last stitch, and I still should have 17 stitches. Row 3, I'm going to start off with a chain of 2. Remember, that's going to count as a double crochet, and I'm going to turn my work. Row 3 is a repeat of row 2. So I'm going to not go into this very first stitch here, but this next one, and double crochet. So I'm just repeating row 2 for row 3. 1 double crochet in every stitch until I get to the end of the row. Okay, I'm coming to the end of row 3 here. Now if you look, I'm just going to show you this. Remember, we have our chain 2 here on the end, and it kind of blends in with the last double crochet, but we have to remember to keep them separated. Because we have to keep 17 stitches. So go into that double crochet, and then the last stitch is the chain 2. Go ahead and double crochet into the top chain of that chain 2, like that, and you'll have 17 stitches. So the only difference between row 2 and 3 was just the way we ended the row there. 17 stitches. So for row 4, we're going to repeat row 3. We're going to chain 2, turn our work, and we're going to start off with the double crochet, not here into the very first stitch, but the next one over. We double crochet, and we're going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch until we get to the end of the row. Okay, I'm coming again here at the end of row 4, and remember, you know, our end stitches, they kind of look like they're together, but you just separate them a little bit with your fingers. That way you can go into that second to the last stitch, and then the last stitch is that chain 2. So go ahead and double crochet into the top of that chain 2. 17 stitches still, and that'll end row 4. Now we're going to start round 5. We're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to do a row of single crochet. Now this time we are going to go into that very first stitch. So that chain 1 we did does not count as a stitch. It doesn't count as anything. So we're going to go into this very first stitch and single crochet. And I'm going to work across, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get to the end of the row. Okay, when you're coming to the end again, just always make sure that you're separating that chain from that last stitch. So single crochet, or from that last second to the last stitch, and then the chain, single crochet into the top of the chain, just like that. And that'll end row 5. 17 stitches still. So now we're going to start row 6. So we are going to start off with a chain of 2. 1, 2, and we're going to turn our work. Now what we're going to do is we are going to work front post double crochets, but we're going to be working it down here in this row of double crochets, not not the single. So we chain 2. So we're not going to mess with this post here. We're going to go around the post of this double crochet down here. And what we're going to do is yarn over and front post double crochet around it. And since it's down 1 row below, I always kind of just bring it up a little bit higher and then do my regular double crochet like that. And now I want to do a double crochet, just regular double crochet in the top of my next stitch, which is the single crochet up here. So when you flip your work and you look, so here's was our first stitch. Here was the stitch that we would have worked our post in. See, we worked our post in it, so we don't do anything with that one. The next one is where we put our double crochet. So I'm going to go right into it and double crochet like that. Now I'm going to go down again and front post double crochet into the next stitch. So not this one, because that's what that double crochet, we did the front post double crochet here. We don't do anything around this one, but the next one we're going to front post double crochet. Remember, I pulled up just a little bit taller since you're going up a row. Not a lot, but just a little. And double crochet. And now we're going to do a regular double crochet into the top of the next stitch. It always helps me to look. I know I have to skip one of these stitches because that's where the front post double crochet would have went if we would have been working in the top. So I know I have to skip that one, and then the next one is where I'll do my regular double crochet. Just like that. Now we're going to front post double crochet again in the next stitch. So we front post double crocheted in this one. We're going to skip this post and we're going to front post double crochet around the next one down here. Pull it up just a little bit taller than normal and then double crochet. And then a regular double crochet into the next. And like I said, I always flip my back, so I skip this one, and this next one is the one that I know I need to double crochet into because it gets a little confusing. But once you get it down, it's pretty easy. One more time. Front post double crochet into the next stitch down here. So here's where we front post double crochet. We're going to skip this post, and in the next post we're going to front post double crochet. Pull it up just a little bit taller and then double crochet. And now we're going to regular double crochet into the top of the next. So I flip my work and I see I need to skip this one, so I won't work into that one. Here's where my double crochet needs to go. Just like that. So I'm going to keep repeating this until I get to the end of the row. Okay, I've come to the end of row 6, and I did my last stitch here was the front post double crochet, and I'm going to go ahead and end by double crocheting into this last stitch here on the end. It's actually a single crochet, so just go ahead and double crochet into that. 17 stitches still. Now for row 8, we are going to chain 1 and turn our work, and we're going to do a row of single crochet. So when we do our row of single crochet, we always start into the very first stitch because that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch. So we go right into the first one and single crochet, and I'm going to work across, putting 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get to the end of the row. Okay, I've come to the end of row 7 here, and I single crocheted in this stitch, and I want to make sure my last single crochet goes into the top of this chain 2. 17 stitches still, and now we're going to start row 8. We're going to chain 2 and turn our work. Now we're going to do the post stitches again, but we're going to make them catty cornered like we did with the hat. So we chain 2, so we're not going to work into this very first stitch here. We're going to go into the next one, and we're going to put a double crochet into that next stitch. So not here, but here. Now we're going to go down to where we worked post stitches before, and we're going to work a front post double crochet into this double crochet here in between these two front post double crochets from the previous row. So you see there's a post stitch here and a post stitch here, and right here is just a regular double crochet. He's just hanging out there by himself. So why don't we go ahead and yarn over and front post double crochet around him, and draw your yarn up just a bit longer and do your front post double crochet. And now again, we want to do a regular double crochet in the next stitch. I flip it over and I look. I know that I need to, this one is not worked in. That's where the front post double crochet would have went. So I know I need to skip that one and put a regular double crochet into the top of the next stitch. Again, I'm going to front post double crochet down here in this double crochet that's just hanging out by himself. Here's two front post double crochets from the previous round. So right in between them is just a regular double crochet. Let's yarn over and front post double crochet around him. And regular double crochet into the top of the next stitch. So I'm going to flip it. This one I skip, and I know that my regular double crochet needs to go right there into that stitch. Again, we're going to front post double crochet into the next stitch. So here's a front post double crochet from the previous row. Here's a front post double crochet from the previous row. And here's our regular double, just waiting for us to front post double crochet around him. Like that. And then I'm going to flip my work, and I know I need to skip that one, and this one right here is where I put my regular double crochet. So I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way until we get to the end. What it's doing is making our post catty-cornered like it did in our hat. One more time, I'll go ahead and show you. We're going to front post double crochet around the next stitch. So here's two front post double crochets from the previous row. We don't want to do anything with them. We want this guy right here, this regular double crochet. We want to front post double crochet around him. And then I flip my work and look, and I see I need to skip this one and put a regular double crochet into the top of that one. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this until I get to the end of the row. Okay, when you come into the end of round 8, I just did a front post double crochet, and you should have 2 stitches left. You want to go ahead and just double crochet into those last 2 stitches. And you'll have 17 stitches. Now we're going to start row 9, which is actually the last row of the repeat. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And we're going to single crochet in every stitch across. And since we're single crocheting, we always start into the very first stitch. And I'm going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch until I get to the end of the row. Okay, I've come to the end of row 9, and I'm going to make sure I single crochet into that last chain 2. Now, what I'm going to do is repeat rows 2 through 9. Now, if you look through the comment, down in the comments, I will put the repeat rows for the scarf as well as I did for the hat. So you can just click on those and it'll take you, so row 10 will actually be a repeat of row 2. So we're going to repeat rows 2 through 9 until you get your scarf, as long as you want it to be. Now, I did it until I ran out of my entire cake of swirl cakes. I had like 3 feet left and I was finished. And it made my scarf about 6 feet long. But you can make yours longer, you can make yours shorter, whatever you want. But you want to end, when you end your row, you want to make sure you end on 3 rows of double crochet, and your last row would be a single crochet. That's how you want to end. That way it matches the beginning where you started. You started with a single crochet and then you did 3 rows of doubles. You want to end with 3 rows of double in your last row to be a single crochet. So just keep repeating those rows until your scarf, like I said, as long as you want it to be. Mine's about 6 foot long, and that was almost one entire Caron twirl cake. I couldn't do any more rows. I finished it out. All right, that's it. Slouchy's done. And then I went ahead and made my regular hat with my 6.5 millimeter off camera. Done. Exactly the same. That's the difference in the hook size. Hook size really makes a difference, doesn't it? But exactly the same. And my scarf. So I got myself a whole set. Now I just need to get some pom-poms or something. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out my hundreds of other tutorials also. You can like this video if you enjoyed. I'd really appreciate that. And until next time, have a good day and stay safe. Hi everybody, this is Crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to make this slouchy beanie. I'm not much of a slouchy beanie type of person. I personally don't think I look too very good in them. And I'm definitely not a pom-pom person. But I thought this slouchy needed a pom. So I put a hot pink one on it. Because it has hot pink flecks in the yarn. And then I have the matching scarf as well. So it's not hard, a hard pattern to do either of them. Do you guys want to go ahead and get started? Now it's simple pattern and it would work well for a man or a woman, either or, you know. I don't know. Maybe I could get used to it. I'll think about it. Let's go ahead and get started on it. Okay, so here's the hat. Like I mentioned, it'd work well for a man or a woman. I'm going to say 21, 22, 22.5 inch head. Something like that, because, you know, it stretches. Now, this hat, you can leave the palm off if you want or whatever. I'm going to tell you how the hat has worked. So the hat has worked from the bottom up. But this ribbing is put on last. So actually, it starts the hat, we start working the hat here. And we work our way up. And then we gather it up at the top and sew it. And then we come back down to the bottom and we add the ribbing later. Sometimes I do the ribbing first and sometimes I do it last. I always think that it's easier to do it last myself, but I do it both ways. I don't even know if I've ever done it on video last before. I can't remember, but if not, if you've never done it that way, you're going to learn how to do it. It's actually quite easy to do. It's just single crochets and slip stitches, mainly double crochets and single crochets up here. The scarf, also very easy to do. This hat, like I said, probably 21 to 22.5 inch head, but it is meant to be kind of a slouchy hat a little bit. So it's about 9 inches counting the ribbing. So, I mean, it's not super slouched, but kind of slouched, I guess. And the scarf is, I will give you the multiples of the scarf. I think it's cool how it goes a little diagonal. So you can make it wider and you can always make it as long as you want. But the scarf measures about 6 inches wide. Yeah, almost 6 inches. Yeah, right at 6 inches wide. And it's about 87 inches long. So it's quite a long scarf. You can shorten that up if you wish. It's very, very easy to do. You can make it wider and shorter or whatever you want to do. So the yarn that I use for this project is from Michaels. It's Loops and Threads Eco Cozy yarn. It is a recycled yarn and it's actually pretty cool. Now it's classified as a bulky number 5, so you will need to use a bulky 5 for this project. But you don't have to use this yarn. And if you don't have a bulky 5, I would recommend putting 2 4-weight yarns together, because 2 4-weights equal a bulky 5. There are 145 yards per ball. I used a complete 2 balls for my scarf, and then it took almost all of one, like 140 yards, I think, maybe, for the hat. So that's what you'll need as far as yardage wise goes, if you're following along with me. And because, okay, of course, if you're going to make your hat shorter or your scarf shorter, you know, you won't need that much yarn. This is not the color that I used. The color I used was called Light Gray Flecked. Got that pom-pom at Amazon also. If you type in Amazon fake fur poms, and they'll pop up, you'll be able to see them on there. And this pattern requires 2 different hooks. For the scarf, I used an N, which is a 9mm. Sometimes an N is a 10mm. Either or will work. A 9mm or a 10mm, that is for the scarf. And for the hat, we're going to be using a K, which is a 6.5mm crochet hook. So let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so first off, we're going to start with the scarf. Now, the length of your chain is the width of your scarf, not the length, so the width. So if you want yours bigger or smaller than mine, the multiple for the scarf is a multiple of 2. So for my size, if you like the size of mine, I chained 16 stitches. You want it bigger or smaller, any multiple of 2 will work. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a single crochet in the second stitch from our hook, just like that. And then we're going to do a single crochet in every stitch for the length of the chain. This is a very simple pattern. So I'm going to work my way down until I get to the end of the row. Alright, so I've made it to the end of row 1, and I now have 15 stitches. So that's the number of stitches I'm going to have. Now, if you made yours bigger or smaller, you'll have 1 less stitch than the chain number that you started with. Since I started with 16, I have 15 now. Now, rows 2 and 3 are the repeat rows. So we're going to go ahead and start row 2. And we're going to start by chaining 3. Now, this chain 3 counts as a double crochet. And then we're going to turn our work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into that same stitch. Here's the chain 3. We're going to go back in the very first stitch that this chain 3 sets on top of and double crochet into it. So since that chain 3 counts as a double crochet, it's kind of like we have 2 double crochets in that first stitch. Now we're going to skip 1 stitch, so skip, and then the next one we're going to work 2 double crochets into the same stitch, and that's the repeat. We're going to skip 1 and work 2 double crochets into the next stitch, skip 1 and work 2 doubles into the next, skip 1, 2 doubles into the next, and we do this until we get to the end of our row, which I'm almost there, so I'll just keep going. Skip 1, 2 doubles, skip 1, 2 doubles. And see, when you make it to the end, I have one stitch left to skip. In the last stitch, I'm just going to put 1 double crochet into the last stitch, just 1. So that will end row 2. So counting that chain 3 on this end, you will still have 15 stitches. You're always going to have 15 stitches. So we're going to start row 3. Row 3, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. and we are going to put 1 single crochet into this very first stitch. So that chain 1 that we just made doesn't count as a stitch, it doesn't count as anything. We're going to pretend like it's not even there. So we're going to single crochet into the very first stitch, and then we're going to single crochet 1 single crochet in every stitch until we get to the end of the row. So it's pretty easy. Row 3. This is the row of single crochet, 1 in every stitch. Okay, when you make it to the end of row 3, your last single crochet needs to go into the top of this chain 3 here. So right into the top of it and single crochet, and you'll have 15 stitches still. And that's it. That's the repeat. So for row 4, we're going to repeat row 2. That's where we chained 3. 1, 2, 3, which counts as a double. Turned our work, and we went back into that very first stitch there and double crocheted again. So counting that chain 3, it's kind of like having 2 doubles into the first stitch. And then we skip 1 and we work 2 doubles into the next. How easy is this? Easy stuff. Now I'm going to repeat rows 2 and 3 until I get my scarf as long as I want it to be. Now remember, if you're following along with me, you'll always have 15 stitches at the end of every row, regardless of what row you're working on. I'm going to continue going, and I'll let you know how many total rows I do, or how long, how many inches I make my scarf. Of course, you can do yours as long or as short as you want. Alright, I have completed my scarf, and what I did is the yarn that I used, I just used an entire 2 balls. So I ended with 125 rows. So my last row was a single crochet row. And that made my scarf about 87 inches long. You definitely don't have to do it that long if you don't want to. Or you can do it twice as long. It's however long you want it. But I think it's really cool how it angled itself out. Check that out. It's kind of neat, huh? The stitches, as it grew, they started to slant. It's kind of neat stitch, really. I like it. Well, you want to get started on that hat? Let's do it. Okay, for the hat, I'm going to be using the hook size smaller, the K, which is a 6.5mm crochet hook. Now, the hat is also going to be done in a multiple of 2, and we are going to be working from the bottom of the hat up. So we're going to start with a big long chain, and then we're going to form a ring, and that'll be the bottom of our hat, and we will work our way up from there. That's not usually the way that I do my hats, but some of them I do. So I started out with a chain of 56. So if you're using a different yarn, maybe smaller or different, what's best is to make a chain and wrap it around your head, you know, to about where your hat would come down. I always do mine kind of like right above my eyebrows, and make sure it fits kind of, you know, just normal, or kind of where I can put my finger through it. And that would be the chain amount that you would need in case you're, like I said, you're using different yarn, but make sure that it's done in a multiple of 2. For me, I chained 54 stitches for mine, and my head's 22 inches. So this should probably fit to 21 to 22 inch head. So let's go ahead and get started. So I got my chain, my long chain of 54. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow it down without twisting it. I'm going to slip stitch into the first ring, or first stitch, to form one large ring. Like that. Now we are going to chain 1, which is not counted as a stitch, and we're going to go right back into that same spot there that we just slip stitched into, and single crochet. Now for round 1, I'm going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around my big ring until I get back to my starting point. Just like this. So 1 single in every stitch till you make it back to the beginning. Okay, so I've come to the end of round 1 and I have 54 stitches because that's what I started. That's how many chains I started with. So I'll have 54 single crochets. And I want to go ahead and end by slip stitching into my first single crochet. So remember, we're working from the bottom up. So don't worry about how the bottom looks now. We'll come back around later on and clean up that bottom edge. So I got my 54 stitches and I'm going to start round 2. So rounds 2 and 3 are going to be the repeat rounds. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by chaining 3 like that. And then we're going to go back into the same stitch. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet just as it did on our scarf. Go back into the same stitch that we just did and double crochet like that. Now we're going to do kind of the same pattern that we did on the scarf. We're going to skip 1 and we're going to put 2 double crochets into the next. So it's very similar to the scarf pattern, except for we're working in instead of back and forth, we're working it in the round. So we're going to skip 1 again and 2 doubles into the next. And we're going to do this all the way around until we get back to our starting point. Skip 1 and 2 doubles into the next. Skip 1 and 2 doubles into the next. So I'm going to repeat this until I get back to the beginning. Okay, I've made it to the end of round 2. I did 2 double crochets and I have 1 stitch left. I want to skip that 1 stitch and slip stitch into the top of my beginning chain 3, and I should still have 54 stitches. Now all we're going to do is we are going to do a row of single crochet now. So we're going to chain 1 and we're going to go ahead and single crochet back into the top of that chain 3. And then we need to single crochet in the next stitch. Sometimes it gets hidden. Make sure you kind of pull it back like that. You don't want to miss that stitch because otherwise your count will be off. I've missed him plenty of times. I learned not to do that anymore. And now we're just going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around for round 3 until we get back to our starting point. Alright, I come to the end of round 3 and you'll still have 54 stitches if you're following along with me. We want to go ahead and end by slip stitching into our first single crochet, not the chain one, but the single crochet. And then we're just going to keep repeating rows 2 and 3. That's a repeat, the same as the scarf, so it's pretty easy. So we start off with the chain 3, just like we did for row 4, just like we did on row 2. And then we go back in that same stitch and put a double crochet. So right here in the same spot that we slip stitched into. So counting that chain 3, it's acting like a double crochet. We have 2 double crochets there. And then we're going to move along by skipping 1 and putting 2 doubles into the next. Skip 1 and 2 doubles into the next. So I'm going to keep repeating rows 2 and 3. You always have 54 stitches for a little while longer. I'll let you know how many rows here I do of the repeats of rows 2 and 3 in just a second here. Okay, so I have done a total of 13 rounds, and that's starting from round 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So my last round was a single crochet round. Now what I'm going to do is pull a long tail because we're going to sew the top together. So, oh, let me give you a quick measurement too on that. That way you can get it. So my 13 rounds are 7 inches. Don't worry though, we're going to do a little bit on the bottom too. So, anyways, pull a long tail through enough that we're going to sew up the top together with it. So, I don't know how long. 18 inches or so, I guess. It's probably 2 feet. It's probably too much, but better to have enough than not enough. Learned that the hard way. Now you want to take a yarn needle. I don't know why mine's all rusty, but for some reason it is. So we're going to just go around the top now, and we're going to go in. I'm going to do every other stitch and just weave in and out the top of every other stitch. So here's where I started. I'm going to go in next stitch and pull my tail through, and then I will skip a stitch and go through the next stitch. We're just going to the top of the stitch. Try not to get it hung up on any of the other part of the stitch, like that. And then I'm going to skip this stitch, and then the next one, just go right through the top of it. Don't go, make sure you're not going through it like that. We just want to go through the top of the stitch like that. And I'm going to do this all the way around until I get back to my starting point. I'm going to skip one, and then we'll pull it together and close the top up. Tie it up, sew it up, and work on the bottom a little bit. Hopefully I don't run out of yarn. Probably should have did my hat before the scarf. Okay, so I'm just going to keep weaving this back and forth every other stitch until I get back around to the beginning. If you want, you can pull it a little bit as you go, and you see it's going to close up the top. So I'll meet you when we get back around. I made it all the way around. So now what you want to do is gently kind of just pull your hat together. Make sure you do it nice and slow, nice and easy, because you don't want your yarn to break, especially if you're using the same type of yarn I am. It could be some yarns break pretty easy. But we're going to pull it until it pulls pretty tight at the top to where there's just maybe just a little bitty circle left, and then we're going to sew that up the rest of the way. But pull as tight as you can, and then you just take your yarn and we'll just sew it up the rest of the way. I always stick my hand in there so I know that I'm sewing it out correctly. I'm putting a pom-pom on the top, so the sewing job that I do doesn't have to be perfect. It's not gonna be, because I can't sew. So pom-pom will take care of that. But you want to know what we're doing is we're sewing it together the rest of the way, that we didn't get it pulled tight, and then we're also hiding our tail at the same time. So we did get it all sewed up here at the top. If you want to put your pom-pom on now, you can do that also. If you have a pom and you want to put it on, you don't have to put a pom on, but you can sew it on. You can use a button and sew a button on the inside. And my pom-pom came from Amazon, and it has the little elastic loops on it. Sometimes it's hard for me to find, but it's somewhere in here, right here. So a lot of ways that you can put a pom-pom on like this. You can sew a button on the inside of your hat, and then pull this through the center and button it to the inside. That way when you wash your hat, you can take your pom off. You can, some of these you can buy on Amazon that already have the button on it. So you sew the button on the inside, and then this will snap to the button. If you want it to, you can also sew it on top with your yarn a few times and just kind of tie some simple knots in it. A lot of people do that to hold it on the hat, and then you can clip those knots whenever it's time to wash the hat. Take the pom off and then sew the pom back on very simply. Or if you want a perma pom, That's what I do. I hot glue mine. So either way, because I hand wash my stuff, and when I hand wash, I usually just do it really easy, and palms don't really, you know, I hand wash it and I lay it flat, so when the palm gets wet, it dries. Usually I can just blow it out with the blow dryer and comb it up a little bit and it looks normal again. So, but I don't know about putting it in the dryer. I've never done that, but I do the perma palm. So I'll hot glue my palm on. That's how I'll do mine. But you can do yours anyway. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and finish sewing up the top, and then we're gonna start working on the bottom. Okay, so now I'm gonna start at the bottom of the hat where we left off. I haven't put my palm on yet, but this is kind of what it looks like. So let's see, here's where I started. So I just want to start some yarn back here somewhere where we started our very first round, only for the purpose so I can hide that tail as I go. So you can start in any one of these single crochets here from our first row and pull your yarn up and chain one. Now go back into that same stitch that we just did and single crochet. Like I said, I'm going to try to hide my yarn tails as I go. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work around putting one single crochet in every stitch until I make it back to my starting point around the bottom edge here. And since I started with 54 chains, I should have 54 stitches when I make it back around to my starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and work all around until I get back here. Okay, so I have made it back around. I'm going to add some ribbing now to the bottom. So we are going to start, I'm just going to call this the edging for the purpose of a written pattern. I'm going to say what we just did was row 1 of the edging. So I made it back around of row 1 of the edging of the hat, or the brim of the hat, or whatever you want to call it. It's just row 1 of the brim, edging, ribbing. We're on row 1. So I do have 54 stitches now. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first stitch to end round 1 of our edging, or brim, or you guys know what I mean. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 stitches, okay? 6 chains. So we are going to single crochet in the second stitch from our hook. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5. So we have 5 stitches now. We chained 6, but since we single crocheted in the second, we have 5 stitches. I know this is kind of, we're working at the ribbing backwards. Most people do it at the beginning of the hat, but I'm going to do mine at the end here. Okay, so we made it all the way down. Now what we're going to do is slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So we want to slip stitch in here is where the base of our chain is, right here. We want to slip stitch into the next stitch. Like that. And then we want to slip stitch one more time into the next stitch. Like that. And then we are going to chain 1 and kind of turn our work, and we're going to go back up our chain that we just made. So we want to skip the chain 1 that we just made doesn't count as anything. We want to skip those 2 slip stitches. So basically we have our 5 single crochets here. We want to work in the back loop, single crochet in the back loop of the first 4. But what I like to do, just to make sure that I'm going into the right stitch, is I like to count backwards from the top. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know we have 5. We have to work 5, but we're only going to go through the back loop of 4. So count back from your first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go into the back loop. So there's 2 loops. The one closest to you is the front loop. The one furthest away is the back loop. Oops. So we go into that one and we single crochet. And then we go to the next one, back loop only, and single crochet. The next one, back loop only, single crochet. The next one, back loop only, single crochet. So that was 4 single crochets we did in a row, only in the back loop, but we have a total of 5. Now the very last one, we're going to go through both loops of that last stitch and single crochet, just like that. So now we're going to chain 1, which doesn't count as anything, and turn our work. Now we're going to work back down our ribbing. So always at the end, whether it be like we just did, we single crochet through both loops, and now we're still at the bottom of our hat here. We want to start out going through both loops. Single crochet into the very first stitch right here, going through both loops. And then we will work our 4 remaining single crochets of the row in the back loops only. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those 4 plus our first one is a total of 5. So now what we're going to do is slip stitch in the next 2. So here we have already worked this one, so we need to go to the 2 that we haven't worked. I know it looks like it hasn't been worked, but if you look carefully, you can see that's where our chain started. So we go to the next one and slip stitch once, and then the stitch after that, slip stitch again, chain 1, and turn our work, and we repeat. So remember, we don't count the chain 1 or those slip stitches. I like to count back. It's easiest to count back from your first stitch up here. Count back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we know we need to start in this stitch, back loop only, and we do 4 single crochets up the chain, back loop only. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then our last one, our 5th, we go through both loops in a single crochet like that. And now we're going to do it again. We're going to chain 1 and turn our work, and you can kind of see the ribbing starting to form. And since we're at the top here, we start our first one, our very first stitch, by going through both loops and single crocheting. And now we're going to work it down our chain, and we're going to put a single crochet in the back loop of the remaining 4 stitches. Back loop only on the remaining 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now again, we need to slip stitch 2 times. So you can tell right here is where we slip stitch. That's where our chain goes. We don't slip stitch there. We're going to slip stitch into the next one, and then the next one after that. And then we chain 1 and we turn our work and we repeat. We need to do a single crochet in the back loop of the first 4 stitches here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and our remaining 5th one, we go through both loops on that one and single crochet. Chain 1, turn our work, do it again. Start off by single crocheting into the very first stitch, both loops. And then our remaining 4 is back loops only. We single crochet in the back loops only of the remaining 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we come down here and we got to look carefully. Here is our chain. We started in that stitch. Even though it appears kind of like it hasn't been worked, it has. Don't go into that one. Slip stitch over here into the next one. Like that. And then we slip stitch again into the next one. Like that. Chain 1, turn our work, and repeat. And then that's how we're going to do our ribbing all the way around the hat. So we're going to continue that process until we make it back to our starting point. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my ribbing. I guess my ribbing the brim of my hat really only consisted of 2 rows. That one row is single crochet, and then this whole brim thing, so whatever you want to call it, just the brim of the hat. Anyways, I went down this and I have this one you see is worked. I have 2 left that are not worked, so I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into those 2. Chain 1, go back up this one last time. 4 single crochets in the back loop. And then 1 in both loops at the top. Chain 1 and turn. We work our way back down the same way. Single crochet through both loops at the top, and then 4 single crochets in the back loop back down. And I am playing yarn chicken with this hat. Okay, now that's it. We're there. We don't have no more stitches that we can go in. So that's all I have left here, which I'm going to use to sew this up. So I'm going to pull it all the way through, and then I'm going to get I'm going to clip it a little shorter because I'm not going to need that much. So I got like 5 inches left. Wow. Anyways, I'm going to grab my rusty old rusty, that's its name now, my needle. I kind of like it. I don't even know where it came from, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to do it on the inside so you can't see it. So I'll flip my work right side out, or wrong side out, I'm sorry. And I will take these 2 ends and just grab them. The 1 loop here on the bottom and 1 loop here on the bottom. And just kind of neatly sew them up together. As neat as you can. Even if you grab both loops, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. But just sew it together so it comes out equal at the top if you can. And then what I'm going to do is we go back down it again. We don't want it coming undone. Definitely don't want it coming undone. So go back down it again, and by going back down it again, we're also hiding our tail at the same time. Okay, that's good. I'm calling it quits on that. Okay, now I'm going to put that off. And there it is. So that's an easy way to put ribbing on the hat after you're finished. I actually sometimes think it's easier to do it afterwards than it is in the beginning. In the beginning. I don't know why. Sometimes I find it easier that way. But that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to hot glue my pom-pom on the top real quick. Now remember, if you want to sew it, you can do that too. Okay, here it is. I put my pom on. It's done. It's finished. It's kind of cute with that hot pink pom, I guess. Matches the flex and whatnot. Here's my scarf to go with it. So, I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Nice hat and scarf set. Great for a man, woman, anybody. that need something to keep them warm, this will do it. So I appreciate you guys watching my video, and if you liked it and you enjoyed it, you're able to follow along, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I have hundreds of crochet tutorials. And if you don't crochet, I got lots of yarn content too. I like to talk about yarn a lot, so new yarns and all kinds of different yarns. So lots of fun stuff on my channel. And if you make this or anything else, you can always, I would appreciate it if you come follow me on Instagram. I always post like sneak peeks of what I'm working on first, and sometimes I have giveaways and whatnot on there. But you can always hashtag me in the things that you make, anything that you crochet. I'd really like to see a picture of it. But that's it, and until next time, as always, please stay safe and have a good night.